Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Sam Nova 98 again, and today I am back, and today I wanted to do something I wanted to do for a while. Something that I feel like I've been wanting to do like last year for 2020, and today I wanted to talk about all the video games that I played in 2021. Now, when it comes to video games in 2021, it wasn't a remarkable year at all. It was pretty meh for a lot of things. There was not that much video games releasing. The dates for everything got delayed till this year, mostly because of the pandemic. But also not just that. When I look back at 2021, it was a really, really, really bad year when it came to the video game industry in ways I never thought possible. But I did manage to play some games last year. Only 3 of which came out last year, that actually released last year. Most of them was from my backlog or from 2020 or years prior. So I wanted to get into this. I finished a total of 25 video games in 2021. Not too crazy, not too much. I mean, the year before in 2020, I finished 36 games. But this year, it dropped to 25. So, anyways, let's get into this list. These are all the video games that I played in 2021 and what I thought about them. Imagine this being like quick little micro reviews of each game. So, starting off in January, the first game I finished in 2021 was Star Wars Squadrons. Now, this was kind of a game that was announced out of the blue, like EA just dropped it, and overall it was a very pleasant surprise. It was the first Star Wars game by EA that I could say was, well, the second that I could say was actually great. It was fun, it didn't really have the longevity I was hoping for, but for a sort of budget title that released, it was a really good game, and it was one of my favorites from 2020. Star Wars Squadrons had a campaign that I think took around 12 hours to complete. It was a really good campaign. The problem was I played it on PlayStation 4, and one of the big issues with it was on the last few missions, I think it was the second to last mission of the game, the cutscene stopped, and all I could hear was audio, so I couldn't see what was happening. It was weird. I don't understand what was going on with it, but overall, I thought Squadrons was a great game. Multiplayer was pretty good too, but I do kind of hope we get a sequel. We don't know what's going to happen, but who knows, we might, but you never know. Alright, the second game I finished this year, was Astra's Playroom. Now, let me give you a little backstory of what happened. So for a while, the only game I finished in 2021 was Star Wars Squadrons. This was a almost 2-month gap between me finishing games, and the reason was because my PS4 was just sounded horrible, and it was like unbearable, like listening to the sound. I tried cleaning it, I just could not do it anymore, and I was like, I'm gonna save it for a next gen system. And I thankfully got a PS5, and the first game I finished on my PS5 was Astra's Playroom. This is a sort of like a game that it's included with every single PlayStation 5. I finished it in, I'd say, about 4 to 5 hours. This is a really fun little game. It's pretty much a tech demo to show off what the PS5 is capable of and what the DualSense 5 is capable of. It's really cool with what they were able to do with it. It's one of the most enjoyable tech demos I've played. And even though it is a tech demo, I still really, really thought it was a great experience and definitely worth checking out. If you get a PS5, make this the first game you play. Astra's Playroom is a ton of fun. Definitely one of the best games I played from 2020. Third game, this is the second game I finished on PlayStation 5, and that is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, I know this is available on PS4, but I decided to get it on PS5 and wait till I got a PS5 because the PS4 version I heard is not great. It's not very well optimized, so I decided to hold off on playing it on PS4 and get it on PS5. And I think Spider-Man Miles Morales is a great game. It's very fun, very like refined in a lot of ways. It's not as good as Spider-Man PS4, the first game, but it's still really damn good. And people said it was too short. I was perfectly fine with it. The price tag was a little steep, but I still really enjoyed it. Alright, fourth game I finished last year was Abzu. Now, I had a weird problem with this game. I started up because Sony was giving this out for free as a part of their play at home because of the pandemic. A lot of people were staying home in the last year, well, last 2 to 3 years now when I really think about it. People have been staying home more often, and I think Sony was like, let's give out some free games. Like they gave out Horizon Zero Dawn, Ratchet and Clank. But I decided to try out Abzu, and this game, as soon as I booted up on my PS5, my whole PlayStation shut off. I was like, did that just happen? Like, I was really worried my PS5 was broken, and I was genuinely concerned. And I did get it to work, but I really couldn't, understand if it was, my PlayStation or if something was unplugged improperly. So, yeah, I was definitely frustrated with that, but I did get it to work. So, anyways, Abzu is the 4th game I played this year, and let me check to see how much time I've left on my camera. I got plenty of time. Alright, moving on to the 5th game I finished this year, and that was Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. This was sort of one of the more, overlooked releases of 2020. It came out kind of in a really rough, crazy patch of the year. It came out, I think, the same month as, a month before next-gen systems, and it was just a really busy month and it didn't sell that well. But I thought this was a great platformer. It's very challenging. I died, I think, a total of 70 times on the last 2 chapters because this game was very unforgiving at times, and it definitely really showed. But I still really loved Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. It was very fun, very unforgiving. It was definitely one of the most fun games I played on my PlayStation 5 so far. And also, if you own it on PlayStation 5 and you haven't played it yet, there's a next-gen upgrade, so definitely try it out. Alright, 6th game I finished this year. This is the 6th game I finished. And that was Star Wars Republic Commandos. I actually always wanted to play this, but I never did because I never owned an Xbox. So, it was definitely something that I really didn't want to play. And I finally did get to play it, and I played it because on PS5, the company Aspire has been porting a bunch of old Star Wars games lately to current gen systems like PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and thankfully I was able to play it through backwards compatibility. And this was a great game, really fun. Loved seeing Tamron Morrison voice the characters, even though he voiced Boss and that was it. But this was a great Star Wars game, and I really enjoyed it. Definitely one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time. If you've never played it, now's the time too. And plus, Aspire is making the KOTOR remake, so that'll be definitely interesting to see. Alright, 7th game. Now, this is the first game from 2021 that I actually finished, and that was Resident Evil Village. This is the 8th entry into the Resident Evil series, and I really love this game. I didn't love it as much as 7. I feel like Resident Evil 7 was a masterpiece of horror, but the problem was with Resident Evil 8, I feel like at times the pacing was really off, and also I didn't find it as scary as the first game. Because I heard one of the big criticisms people had with Resident Evil 7 was they made it too scary, which I was like, that's the point. But I still really loved Resident Evil 8. It was definitely one of my favorite games of the last year, but I definitely think there were some issues with it that could be improved in Resident Evil 9 if that ever happens. But Resident Evil Village was definitely a great game, and despite my issues with some of the pacing and some of the choice of the villains, I still really enjoyed it. Alright, 8th game I finished this year was Ratchet & Clank, the 2016 remake / reimagining that was based off that Ratchet & Clank movie that came out, if anyone remembers that. I don't think anyone does because it bombed at the box office, but this was a pretty damn good platform. I had a lot of fun with this. This is probably one of my favorite games from 2016. It was very fun. The combat was really great. Voice acting was a little weird because I kept hearing it was like there'd be Paul Giamatti and John Goodman and then Bella Thorne. It was weird, but I didn't mind it. But I still really enjoyed Ratchet & Clank 2016. It was a fun, definitely enjoyable experience to go through. Alright, 9th game I finished. This is another game that actually released last year, which was Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I finished this after, I think, about 25 hours, 20 hours maybe, and I almost platinumed it, and I actually may go back and platinum it because I had a really good time with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. It was very, very fun, very very beautiful to look at. It really used the power of the PS5, like the SSD, and it was just incredible to look at and beautiful. The combat was a lot of fun. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the best games released on the PS5 so far. Here's to hoping Horizon and God of War Ragnarok live up to those expectations. Really loved it. And moving on to the 10th game I finished this year. 10th game I finished was Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. And this was definitely one that I actually really wanted to play because I never finished it as a kid because I sucked at it, and I would always get to the final level and then my data would get erased randomly. But this was a great game to go back and play, and I'm so glad that they've pretty much restored it and they preserved it, because for a while you couldn't play this game anywhere. That's definitely a problem with distribution, but thankfully Limited Run made physical copies of it, and I was able to pick up 2 copies, one for Switch and one for PS4, and I absolutely love this game, and I thought it's probably my favorite beat 'em up of all time. Definitely one of the best movie licensed games to come out, and if you haven't played it, definitely check it out. It's a piece of video game history that I think everyone should try out. Alright, 11th game I finished was from 2014, and that was Far Cry 4. Now, I'm not really the biggest fan of Far Cry. I love Far Cry 3. I never played 1 or 2 or any of the other ones, but Far Cry 4 was really, really fun for the most part. I feel like the story wasn't as good as Far Cry 3, and I feel like the pacing was really slow at the beginning. That's why I never finished it years ago when it first came out, because I feel like the pacing and the plot wasn't that engaging. So what happened was I decided, I'm going to play it again on PlayStation 5, and I had a great time with it. Only problem I had was really the story, and the characters weren't really that likable. Besides Pagan Min, he was a fantastic villain. Not as good as Voss from Far Cry 3, but still a great villain. But I think Far Cry 4's biggest problem is it starts to really just meander towards the end, and you're kind of just alright, let's wrap it up, and that's how I felt. But I still think Far Cry 4 was a great game. Not as good as Far Cry 3, but still a really good game. Alright, 12th game before I cut this and make part 2. The 12th game I finished this year was another first-person shooter, Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Now, I got this at Christmas of 2019 from Best Buy, even though it came with a case, but there was no cartridge. It was only the download code, which I find really strange that happens. But Call of Juarez Gunslinger was an awesome game. Definitely really fun, really entertaining first-person shooter. Great adventure. It was really, really funny, too. There was a lot of great elements of humor, and it just was overall a straight-up fun game that I think was the final Call of Juarez game, but I think it was a great way to end the series. And honestly, I know Techland's moved on to Dying Light, and they're working on Dying Light 2 right now, but I really loved Gunslinger. If you ever played Gunslinger, definitely try it out. It's one of the best Western first-person shooters you can play. Alright, so I'm going to cut it there, and I'm going to come back and make part 2 right after this. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 1, and I will see you guys on part 2.